Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending from where you are, and welcome to our second webinar, where today Schulering is talking about learning. So just as an intro, I've spoken with Nah-Dja and with Szilvia, who both have a lot to share. Well, I will not give away exactly what. I will let them do that themselves. But there was a preparation. Yeah, there is an agenda to talk about learning specifically in combination with the hospitality industry. The agenda is as follows. I would like to give Mauricio the opening word. Wish everybody good luck for this year. He will go a bit into that. And furthermore, I would like to give them the time to Nah-Dja. There is room for discussions. Feel free to unmute. I have questions for one another, and then we will move on to Szilvia. And then I'm looking forward to this session. We will finish at 7:30 Central European time. And then if we cannot cover all the topics we wanted to discuss, I'll just write them down, and then it will be just a bridge to the next session in hopefully 2 to 3 months. So let's get started. Mauricio, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Carlo. Thank you, Nah-Dja. Thank you, Szilvia, for accepting the invitation to speak about learning and development here in the industry. And I'll start with a little story. In 1787, Mozart used to come to Prague a lot. Then he used to stay at the Pachta Palace. That's a beautiful property right in front of the Vltava River, next to the Charles Bridge, with a nice view to the Prague Castle. And Count Pachta invited him to write a new piece for the ball of the Society of Nobles that would happen in that palace. And Mozart arrived pretty early, like weeks early, and just partied his way down, drank all his host wine, even invited his friends like Casanova to come and stay with him, but not delivering the piece. Until the very last day, Count Pachta came to Mozart and said, either you write me something new, or you are banned from the party. So Mozart got a paper, a pen, and in 30 minutes, he wrote the 6 German dances, K509. It's a beautiful piece. And the next day, the whole orchestra with Mozart play along, and everyone was having a delightful time and enjoying the party. And why I brought this story is because I see Pachta as our industry workforce in the past decade, just growing frustrated and telling all his frustrations about the work conditions in hospitality. And Mozart was the industry leadership. They didn't give a damn to what the industry was complaining about. The ball is the pandemic. When a crisis came and the industry said, that's enough. And they start to give the ultimatum. Like, of course, Mozart, with his geniality, he in 30 minutes, he came up with a solution for the problem, and everyone had a great time. But hospitality spent the last 4 years trying to figure it out, what to do with the labor crisis. Yeah. They come up with some masterpieces as well. Yeah, they adjust a little bit the salaries. They come up with technology and automation. They even rethink what customer experience really is. And how about the workforce? What are we doing to understand the needs of a new generation that learn that hospitality is one of the top 10 careers to avoid? Or 19-year-olds that grew up in the world of social media, while most, like I would say, a lot of our leaders grew up in a place where even their country was locked to outsiders. So if you want to inspire and talents to join our industry, we must understand that the world has changed and discover what really matters for our guests and how our teams will learn and develop and have the service that we try to create delivered. So for today, we have here two amazing speakers, Nah-Dja Tien, that use his human-centric approach to build teams that perform and took multiple properties to the top spot in TripAdvisor here in Prague. And we have Szilvia that worked from the service floor to the HR, managed many teams, opened many hotels, and has a really thought-provoking style and offer ideas that are actually aligned with the way that our new generation think and act. So thank you very much, and I hope you all enjoy what we have to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauricio. Yeah, Szilvia, the disruptor. I like it. I'm currently being trained to be a disruptor as well. I don't think it is a negative word at all, because disrupting is basically just asking, is the status quo working for you, and should we kind of not make it better than it is? And Mauricio, coming back to you and this workforce, is that my own sister, who is 9 years younger than I am, and is a bit of a newer generation, and actually went through a hospitality school, and she didn't get motivated by it. Well, she actually had her own passion for it. She did not see enough motivating people around her, and I think it is a pity, and I think it is something that needs to change, and hopefully we can all contribute to it. So yeah, let's see. Nah-Dja, are you ready? Ready to rumble?
Well, I suppose I need to introduce myself, because I don't look like a Nah-Dja, but I am. I'm a quarter Chinese, 3/4 Dutch. I grew up in Holland, did my studies in Holland, in both Groningen and Leeuwarden, hotel schools. And when I had the first opportunity to go out and work, it was just the time that Disneyland opened up. So my first job that I ever done after my studies, very theoretical, was opening up one of the hotels in Disneyland Paris. I thought it was a unique chance in life, because when can you open up a Disneyland? You probably do that only once. So my first introduction into the hotel business after school, and I've been working in the hospitality or in the restaurant business my whole life, because my parents, they had a restaurant. So hospitality or to be hospitable to people has been poured into me by my parents. So my first learning is my parents, second is school, third is Disney. And Disney is very corporate, yeah, compared to individual hotels. It's a very corporate. You come in, you get a book like this with lots of standard operating procedures. If anybody is interested, what you learn if you want to be a barman in an opening up of Disneyland, one day a truck came full of oranges, lemons, bananas, and we spent the whole day, 8 hours cutting oranges, cutting bananas, cutting lemons, because all the lemons and oranges had to be the right thickness, for whatever you do in the future. So literally a truck full of fruit came with cutting boards and knives, and we cut fruit the whole day. It was just one day out of that. So it was a very good school to learn, how you do it from a corporate perspective. But I also realized in my career later that to do this again, this experience that I had in Disneyland in Paris, in any of the other openings that I've done afterwards is impossible. Because the amount of money and the amount of resources and also human resources poured into that opening, I was not able to reproduce ever again afterwards, because I just didn't have the budgets for it. So when I got my first hotel, and I opened up quite a lot, I was fortunate that people at a certain moment in my life came and say, hey, I have a building, don't know what to do with it. And I was able to create the concepts, hire the people, basically do the whole interior design, graphic design, web design, everything, find what kind of salt and pepper shakers we need. So it was a very interesting time. To go into the learning part of it, I actually decided at a certain moment in my career that I will leave the corporate learning on the side, and I decide to get the right people on the bus that I need for the openings of the small hotels that I did myself, and train them myself. So the very first hotel that I opened up with this concept in mind, I hired people that have never worked in the hotel business before. Because at that time, it was much more interesting for me to teach people the way that I would like to have this hotel working than to unteach them, some things that they might have gotten in the past. Nothing against what people learn in other hotels, but I just needed them to learn what I wanted. I had the opportunity to open up my first hotel with completely blank slate. It was a building. The owner had no idea what he wanted to do with it. We opened it up. We gave it a name. We gave it a concept. We gave it a big story, because what you do without being able to tell a story to the world. And I was lucky that this hotel, almost 4 months after the opening, made it to number 1 on TripAdvisor in Czech Republic. Prague is a competitive market, over 6,000 properties if you include Airbnbs and everything else in it. And I was able to basically get that hotel in that direction because everybody on the bus were the right people. So I was able to get the right people, because my philosophy is I need to fall in love with the people, in the first minute when I hire them. And this is not romantically falling in love, but I just need to feel the spark. And I was lucky enough at those days that there was enough people out there that wanted to work. To teach the people what to do, I also adopted quite early on, and we're talking, this is 2000. When was this? Disney was 2001, so it must have been 2010, so 14 years ago. To put all the information into a central database and to train people basically only once. Record everything, put it into a system, and if I needed to train them again, instead of taking the time, because it is very intensive to train the people all the time, I tried as much as I could to put things in the system and retrain the people in that way.
Question, Nah-Dja, if that's fine with you, because I definitely understand the value of documenting and recording it so it can be reused. What is a way on how to, let's say, keep it up to date, right? Because the world changes, everything changes around us, processes do, regulations, laws. How do you kind of make sure that it's up to date to what is recorded?
Well, it is difficult, and technology 10 years ago or 14 years ago did not work the way that currently technology is working. My first hotel, which I discovered that when you buy a Mac Mini, I bought the first Mac Mini from Apple, that you get automated a wiki included in it. And it was a wiki that I could set up myself. So we had systems in place that every single time that we needed to update, we just went into the wiki, the central knowledge that we had in the hotel, and we tried our best. But you're right, Carlo, it's not easy to keep every single document updated. Nowadays, me and Maurizio, we are fans of software called Notion. It is much more easy because you put the deadline in the documents, then automatically the deadline comes back to you and they say, is the document still up to date? And you say yes or no. And all the documents which are important, you can put a date to it, like a expired date. And that is a lot easier. But in the past, we did it manually. Yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you. Awesome.
Maurizio mentioned in the beginning that I'm a human-centric person. A big part of my career, I thought that I was a little bit crazy. I did not understand from a human point of view that a lot of owners of hotels take people as commodity and say, okay, if you don't like working here, then you leave and you get somebody else. Maybe in those days, it was so easy to hire people, which is currently not the case anymore. And I never really understood that. And in my discussion with Maurizio the last time that we spoke, I then was presented a book because I had a good friend of mine, Monica, that said, you need to read this book. And it is called Happy Hours 9 to 5. And Happy Hour 9 to 5 is a philosophy that that is, okay, there is somebody else in this world that thinks the way that I am thinking, and that allows me to basically put myself into a case that I'm not crazy because other people think like I think. And Happy Hour 9 to 5 grew out to be the happiness conference in Czech Republic, and that is a philosophy that I also put into my hotels. If you have, I mean, it's a cliche in a way, but if you have happy people working with you, then they can give happy service, and then your customers are happy as well. So it was always been very important for me to hire the right people, to train them, on a systematic basis, and if people needed to be retrained, that information is readily available. And I tried a lot to make people as happy as possible in my hotels, and it worked out well, because once you are number one on TripAdvisor, number one on Booking.com, that's the marketing that is very very easily making you money. To make a long story short, I don't know if anybody has any questions at this stage, because my career has been very, very long and I can do many stories, but let's make a little break.
Yeah, I do. Anyone has a question before me? No? Okay. The main question I have is, because you just said about I try to make people happy to work with me, and my question is how to make people happy, because this is probably one of the hardest things that I've come across, is how to make people happy. So what strategies did you use to get people on board with you?
I think I just was myself, and I treated people the way I wanted to be treated myself. One example of this first hotel which I opened up, the owner did not want to invest in too many containers outside on the sidewalk for all the rubbish that you get when you unpack chairs and tables and when you open up a hotel. So we ended up putting bottles of wine on the sidewalk, and then the whole team, all the chefs, the housekeepers, and me, I was the first one, we went and we had a jumping session on the container. Because if you have 10 people or 15 people jumping on a container, suddenly you can put a lot more in the container. So that's the kind of person I am. And I go very much out of my way to make people happy, guests in general, but also the staff. And the people basically saw that I'm not afraid, to pull up my sleeves and to do what I needed to do. This is also possible because those were small hotels, Mauricio. If you have a 500-room hotel, I think it's a whole different story.
Okay, so I have another one that I wrote. Like, you said that you normally try to find people that were like, that you have a sparkle, like something that you would feel in love with, and this I see as a very big challenge to achieve. So is there any specifics that you're looking for in a personality to hire so you could kind of groom them into what you wanted?
Well, if you put me in a category of people that are a little bit crazy about hospitality and crazy about service, I need people that have the same, feeling and the same idea. To open up a hotel that you want to be the number one hotel in whatever city you open it up, you have to have a certain idea of what kind of people you want on board, and it's always difficult, but maybe it's just a feeling from my side. But the first thing is the CVs. I try to avoid in the beginning of my career the people that had 20 years experience in big hotel chains, because then you basically have to unlearn certain ways of how people work instead of being able to teach other people. One of the things that I've done is a speed dating event. So at a certain moment, I organized a sangria evening, which was my recruitment evening, in one of the hotels that I used to work before. I got all the people in the same room, and I needed, a certain profile of people, which is very difficult to get in 5 minutes of discussion. So what I did, I got all the people at the same time in the room. I had people coming into that hotel saying, hey, we have an interview for this hotel opening with Nah-Dja. And the person at the door said, yeah, come in, have a glass of sangria and do your thing. Some of the people, they turned around and they said, this is not for me. Great. Those are the people that I did not want in my team. And I did then a speed dating or a speed interviewing session with everybody. But inside the team were already people working for me. So within the group of people, outside of the discussion with me, they were talking about how they found the hotel, if they liked what they were doing. You see the leaders in the team, you see the people that are very shy and not talking. And this is basically the recruitment process that we did there. So I did some different kind of things than everybody else. But it actually worked out really well because also that hotel actually became one of the top hotels in Czech Republic. I think if you have service in your heart, it is quite easy to get it out, to get it into an interview, to be shown.
I have a question, Nah-Dja.
Please,
you say that you prefer to hire like young people that long experience, but have you thought in that moment, or did you think in that moment about maybe making a mix, like having very young people with not experienced and also very experienced people who could teach them some things that maybe you didn't have to? What do you think about that mix?
I cannot make it black and white like maybe you understood it. Of course, if I needed a chef in the kitchen, he needs to know how to cook. Yeah, so exactly. I did not get anybody that had no clue how to cook. When it comes to guest-facing staff, it was for me also because I came into Czech Republic as a new person. I've never worked in Czech Republic before, and I was very scared, to get people that are in the industry in Czech Republic already for many, many years. So the guest-facing staff, they never worked in hotels before, but chefs and also housekeeping manager, for example, they did have experience. Front office manager had no experience. That I basically did myself. The whole food and beverage side, because I grew up in food and beverage, basically, those people had no experience either. The F&B manager that was there had experience. So it was not as black as white, maybe as I made it to be. Or yeah, so.
Okay, now I get it. Yeah. Okay. And which are if you could tell me the 3 things that you wanted to say in someone who was there looking for a job, which would be the 3 things that you would say it has to have this, and that to be hired by myself?
I saw a very interesting advertisement from a Dutch beer company. I'm not going to mention the name now. And they hired a trainee once a long time ago. And basically the trainee went through a process of very extravagant tasks that needed to be done. When the trainee or when the interviewers or when the interviewees walked into a room to be interviewed, they were held by the hand, and the manager actually walked with them all the way, for 5 minutes, hand in hand. And lots of these kind of crazy things related to the person by themselves. Service-minded, because one of the things in that Heineken advertisement was if somebody drops a pen on the floor, who picks it up? Yeah, so I dropped many pens in those interviews and see, okay, who picks them up and who doesn't care. I think that the biggest thing is what you learn from your parents, and how you are raised is one of the most important things for me personally. Skills I can teach, but I cannot teach what is deeply inside of people. And of course, you need to be able to feel that and to see that. But I think when you have a discussion with somebody, you feel quite easily if they are raised well and if they have the politeness and stuff like that. And that was the most important thing for me.
Okay, thank you, Nah-Dja. Great content, as in great stories. Is it already time for Szilvia? Any questions before we move on, guys? Maria, thank you for your questions. Okay, I guess if not, then Szilvia, it's your time to shine.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So, you guys, all of you met me apart from Nah-Dja. So, I spent 19 years in the hotel industry in London, in China, and here in the Middle East. I have opened 11 hotels, and I looked after in the region 350 plus hotels and 40,000 employees from talent development perspective. So I've done the whole thing, 12 years in operation. I finished my operational career as a rooms division director, and then I moved to talent management. So I can run a hotel, no problem. I'm going to Kuwait now just to look at one of our hotels because they need a little bit of a help. So hotel operation is fun, but that's not me. I'm not interested in customers. I'm more interested in employees and their well-being and how they learn. And this is what I brought you guys today. And Mauricio, coming back to your point, your opening point, as you know, last year I wrote the corporate kindergarten, which is all about the poor practices, managerial and HR practices, especially in the hotel industry. That's all I know. So now the second edition or the sequel is coming out and is all about employee experience using the hospitality principle of designing guest experience. So we are moving towards all that. So I created the framework. Everything is done. Hopefully it will be implemented and rolled out here in Dubai. Let's see. I'm working on that. I want to change the whole hotel industry because it's boring as hell and poor management and poor HR. And I'm not interested. And my last job, I would challenge you on few things. And it's really good that we, coming from a different background, because I am with my 19, maybe that time, 17 years of experience, I was put into my last opening and into a lifestyle hotel. Now, I had no bloody idea what is lifestyle. I had to figure it out, and I had nothing, literally everything taken away from me. You are not allowed to use our course, anything that is our core, but the new brand that we just bought from the States, they don't have anything. So I had to put everything and create from scratch. And my greatest learning happened there, obviously. And this is 3 of them that I brought you guys. And what is it that goes wrong in the hotel industry? Because in terms of L&D, we are probably the worst industry when it comes to learning and talent management. We have big systems, processes, but when it cascades this from the corporate structure, right? But when we go down to the hotel levels, what we see most of the time, one poor L&D person running around, sometimes that role is split. She or he is the PA of the GM, and on the part-time, sometimes throw a little bit of onboarding there, here and there. Now, that is not L&D. I'm an organizational psychologist. I have an education background. I know my craft because I spent 6 years solid studying. Now, the first one is, which I changed in my hotel, in my last one, I looked up the L&D and talent, is the whole complete way of restructuring L&D. And the wrong way of using L&D in hotel, which is the key to have a poor performance. Because I understand that we don't have money to have a whole L&D structure, and I'm fine with it. But if we have one, the question is, what can I do to leverage that one person's strength and talent in learning and development? So I never trained line employees because I had 750 employees in 2 hotels to look after. Do you think I'm going to touch line employees? Absolutely not. But my job was really to develop supervisors and above. So I trained supervisors, manager, head of department, and the GM. and I had to make sure that they are trained well so they can train the line employees. because we, L&D often are pushed from pole to post, or come and fix the service in the restaurant. That's nothing to do with L&D. If I need to come and fix the service in your restaurant, I can come, but you're going to have to fire all your restaurant supervisors and managers. And that's that. And I did the same with every single department. If I need to come in and train your staff, housekeeping, how to make bed, or in finance, how to send an email, then new managers, we don't really need you. Then I hire more of Szilvia, or more of accountant or receptionist. And so this is what's the first one is really. How do we structure the L&D department? So now, when the second part is, where is my role? My role as an L&D person is to provide the managers with the structure that they can actually train their people. This was my job. My job is back of house. It's not me running on the floor teaching the receptionist how to check in. That's just nonsense. I created. So now imagine like a triangle, right? So 60% of the training, it was about their new joiners, their onboarding. They had everybody for every single role in their hotel, a 3-month onboarding plan. But that's delivered by the departments. Then the second part, which was, let's say, 20%, is their departmental training. These guys that delivered insane amount of departmental training every single month, which they send me the report, so I had data on everything. And somebody was lucky, in month of February, I was on their case immediately. 1st of March, I was knocking on the door. What is happening with your departments? Nobody is being trained in here. So then now you are at 80%. So that is all down to the department. And this is where I come into the picture, 20% supervisors and above. And then I supervise the entire process, how everybody is being trained. So I run supervisory development programs, I run management development programs, I train the head of department and provided coaching for all the directors and the general managers. So that's how that L&D should look like. And rather than using their time and talent on nonsense, that sometimes we do. Let me know, you guys, if you have any question. Then the second part, which is very, very important, because you can structure the training, right? That's fantastic. Your managers are the key, because they are the ones who are going to create that learning culture. If you don't have the line managers and the HODs on your side, there is no learning, because you are just on your own. So basically my job was to manage the managers and the HODs to make sure that they deliver training. And I had like 65 of them. So it's not easy, but when you have good relationship and you provide them with everything. So I had to work super hard, because these guys, they don't have the time. They need to run the operation. They don't have the time to create templates and all that. Everything, every single paper, every single template, every single learning material, not department related, but whatever I had to come from me, I had to provide, because they said, I'm not doing it. You give it to me, I do. So I had to make sure that they have it. So there is no coming back that, we don't know because L&D is not giving. I give you everything, but you have to train your staff. So that was the deal. And the third part is really all about how we change the industry and creating in a learning culture. So you have your structure, you have your management on site, but then moving away from this spoon feeding and babysitting kind of approach towards a more independent and self-led learning. And I haven't quite mastered that, because it was just hectic and I had to look after other parts of, talent as well, not just L&D. But really, I started the process that encouraging people to acquire the competencies the way they want. So what L&D needs to do in hotel industry, and that would take off the lot of pressure of them, that outline the competencies, but then leave people to learn the way they want to learn and encourage them that, hey, you don't need your manager, you don't need L&D, you don't need nobody in here if you want to learn. But for them, in order to do that, they need to know what they have to learn. So every job is don't push training, push for competency. So what we have to do is design assessments and tests and just let people. So for example, with, induction day. I got rid of induction day because I absolutely hate everybody sitting in a classroom 1 day, 2 day, brainwashed. By lunchtime, you want to kill yourself. Nobody. I put it online. We had a walking tour. It's like a city tour. You put your earplugs in there. Everything is online and walks you around. I had 75 floor big building. Do you think I'm going to walk around 75 floors each time an employee joins? No, here it is. Here is your QR code. Off you go, meet everybody in our 7 restaurants, in the reception, go in the back office, etc., etc. And then I am going to test you. And if you don't have the answers to the questions about the property that was included in your tour and on the online tour, then you have to go and do it again. I don't care. Study it online, at home, on the bus. By Monday morning, I will ask you again the questions. So it was designed, they had to scan a QR code, for example, at the reception. They had to scan the QR, then they did what they had to do. Then, okay, keep going, it gives direction and instruction, go to the 72nd floor, scan the QR code behind the door. This is where you find the meeting rooms. Now go and find somebody on the meeting room floor. They will explain and take you around and explain everything about the meeting room. Same with the restaurant. But for that, I had to train the managers and the employees who were in those restaurants and areas that, hey, when somebody is coming with this, you're going to have to give a guidance because this is your new colleague. And now you are giving the first impression to your new colleague. If you are ignoring them and they get lost, I'm going to come and get you. So that was the deal. I had to have 750 employees in my hands for me to make that happen. But well, we made it happen. They were fantastic, absolutely amazing. So L&D needs to move away from this spoon feeding, let me train you with, outline the competencies, what you want from the employees, let them do it and assess. So then you build accountability and responsibility. And it also takes off the shoulder because you don't have a whole structure, L&D structure that could actually manage that. So you need to be very wise how you use your resources and use your managers, because managers' job, supervisors and above, is to train your staff. There's no other point of view being there. Everybody can run the P&L. Your job is to run. So for me, I grabbed everybody around, and that was the deal, really. And we made it happen. And it was the best thing ever done. But I had training plan for everything and everybody. Like we created a new role. I stayed overnight because that person is coming tomorrow. I need to have a training plan. And that was it. You know, there was no messing about. Nobody was missed out.
I have a quick question, Szilvia. This was an opening that you are talking about now as
yes.
well? How was it to get 750 people? This was a recent opening or?
That was in 2021, yes. That was my last one. For us here in the Middle East, it's not a big number because my previous hotel was 1,400 employees. So this one was a little, I'm like, okay, I can do that. I work with numbers. I love that, you know, like give me thousands of employees. And I'm very, very happy because I just make it as like a military operation.
I like your comment online that you put, I think a few days ago about employee of the month, you know, organizations. Yeah, so yeah. I understand.
So what L&D really needs to do is make sure that the management, the GM, I had very supportive, everybody in that hotel, they're very supportive. They understand your value. They understand that you are there to support them. They understand, but you need to step in, and it's a very difficult job, because my job was really to get the managers on my side and the supervisors, because if they don't want to train their staff, there's not much I can do. I'm on my own. There's nothing literally that I can do.
Thank you, Szilvia, for sharing your experiences and your knowledge. I do hear one thing you both mentioned that is maybe not directly connected to learning, but to one of our values is Nah-Dja, you mentioned about working together with people that you kind of fell in love with in a business way. Szilvia, you say that relationship and building this with manager to get the best out of them is important, and I think that's overlooked sometimes, right? You don't have to maybe not love each other, but you need to have some kind of respect for each other to make sure, okay, what's in it for me? That they both understand it is that you're not just teaching and talking to them because you want to talk that much or you want to just say what you have on your mind, but you actually make an operation effective. And I think that is really nice how that came forward in this chat. Are there any questions? Because for sakes of the recording, I think we need to move to the closing for Mauricio. But is there any question for Szilvia, Nah-Dja?
I do have a question though. Like you said about the cost of developing this learning development, right? Like, because you said like it's not for everybody, but like if you could throw a number on that cost, what that cost is.
The cost of?
Like running a learning development department.
Well, you can make it, you don't need to make it very costly, but if you hire a highly competent and respected L&D person, that's your cost. I made my cost very low because nobody wants to give money out to L&D. So I reduced my cost to my 750 employees to 100,000 dirham per year. And these were just the mandatory government regulated training. So they were the mandatory ones. I had to spend that 100,000 dirham and plus my salary. But I did everything in-house because there was no more money. I could have spent more, but there is not. But if you hire someone, your L&D person should be at the level of HOD's salary, because otherwise you can't get the respect. You can't train your HODs because you're below them. So I was one level. I was in line with the head of department, because that's the cost you have to pay if you want a proper L&D manager or person.
Cool, thank you. And one last question before the closing. I know that we are very short on time, Carlo. I'm sorry about that. But you, Szilvia, you always challenge people, not only in hospitality, but in general, about generations and the difference between them. Right. And as I see hospitality having a little break during the pandemic and then restarting after just an ignition button, say like, oh, wake up, it's time to start again. And then all of a sudden we have a new generation coming in. And a lot of people complain about the style, but I see that you just say that it's a way of seeing what they care for. So what's the biggest challenge of incorporating Generation Z into the workforce that you see?
Understanding them and understanding that they don't care about authority. They don't care about hierarchy. They are not scared of pushing back. They are not scared of exposing you. They are not scared of asking or questioning your leadership style and what you're doing. And they don't like confrontation. So they're not even going to go into an argument with you. They just don't show up. And what they don't want, I work with Gen Z a lot, and I absolutely love them. But the approach, Gen Z is fantastic, but not in the wrong hands. I keep saying that, They don't want you to lecture them that, in my time, nobody cares. They don't care what you went through. They don't want to go through what you went through. They're not going to buy what you bought from other parents, that, you learn it, it's good for you. They're not having that. So listen to them, guide them. What they want is you to coach them, listen to them, and work together. Coaching and mentoring works super well with that. Telling them what to do, you're gonna lose.
Thank you, Szilvia. I hope that everyone that's listening to it enjoy this event, enjoy the conversation, and start to think about what we can do to change and really engage, really inspire new people to come to the industry, because it's needed. If we don't take action now, the hole is just going to be digging deeper.
I thank you for inviting me, and I think it's a very good thing to put me, with a small hotel that I opened up with 32 rooms versus Szilvia with, I don't know, God knows how many rooms that hotel has, with 750 employees. I think when we opened up Disney at that time in 1991, it had 750 employees when we started. And it had 1,000 rooms, 4,000 beds. So I can only imagine, and I know that the ratios in the Middle East maybe are more people versus rooms than in Europe. But that whole operation, opening up Disneyland, this is what she just went through. So I take my virtual hat off to that. And very inspiring.
I like the strength of most of your stories, and what the recording that got, in my opinion, cut off at the right moment is also something we can share with you, and maybe we can edit some parts nicely for you, Nah-Dja, to reuse as well. Because what you and Szilvia is saying is that there is a change needed for this industry, focusing on not just the young people, but overall how this L&D is being executed. There is a lot of room for improvement, and I think that is a strong message. That is what was really content-wise. Well, I mean, I already kind of knew what was going to be discussed, but in execution, both stories were really strong, in my opinion.
I think that if you look back 100 years, I think for a very long time, hotel industry didn't change. The same check-in, same check-out, probably same teaching. And I think COVID is not only a barrier. I think it already started before COVID. There's a change coming. New people, the Gen Z, as you finished it at the end with your question, Maurizio, they are different people than they were 20 years ago. Relationships in general, look about marriages. People got married 100 years ago, stayed for life. Now you get married and it's not for sure that you stay for life. And I think the whole society is changing. Technology is changing. Everything is needed to rethink. And you see that as well in the way that the document that I sent you today, Maurizio, about how to measure, productivity, or how to measure whether people are happy, guests are happy. It's all changing.
Yeah, no, I 100%. That's why even in my opening points, I point out that how can we really train 19-year-olds that are coming, that grew up on social media with that exposure that social media brings, when at least in Prague, most of the GMs, they grew up in a locked country. And how can you compare and train them if you don't really understand them? Because it's a completely different type of growing up. I cannot imagine being a teenager with social media around me, because social media just came when I was already in university. So it's a completely different take. And we need to understand that everything changed on that sentence, and we have to kind of learn how to adjust and how to talk their language. And I really, the way that Szilvia actually tackled that with the competencies style of breaking down the education into small pieces and trying to assess them on what the hotel needs them to learn, instead of just putting through their throat what they need to learn. but giving them the options like either you learn or not, but I will assess you on that. So who you learn from, it's up to you, but here's the assessment. By the end of the week, you should know that, and I think that this is a great approach, and I'm very excited to what's coming.
I totally agree with that approach from Szilvia. I think that people should be able to, master their own training speed, if that is the right word. Everybody is currently so much used to their phone and to have everything in their pockets. So part of the training should be in the pockets. And I like very much what she wanted to do with those QR codes. Go and find the QR code on whatever floor, and then speak to the people there. And these are the things that you need to learn, and learn them from the people. That is very inspiring.
I took a note, like it's like a gincana, right? So it's like a game.
But I'm very curious because my 17-year-old is studying hotel management right now, and I'm very curious, in a couple of years to compare her to me, and what these huge differences are. And there will be many, but for now she's super motivated still to go into the hotel business. So,
okay, so just to close in, my grandfather once told me that in Germany, people use their names and it means what they are. Yeah. So if you are a miller, it means that you operate mills. If you are an artist, it means that you are a doctor. And we were Schillers, and that means that we're scholars and we must be involved in learning. And the Schulering Hub is, first of all, a community. It's our way to embrace lifelong learning and in the age of connection. So that's why the hub there, it's to connect through learning. And guests will remember how you serve them more than what was there on offer, because they may not use everything that you are offering them, but they will remember how your staff serve them. So hospitality is about helping people to change the way they feel, and they feel by having that human contact. So the center of our hospitality should be into investing in the people that will be there to serve. We can invest a lot of automation, and at some point we will realize that it's the people that will make your hotel come on break. So we are in our hub welcoming the hotels, restaurants, cafes, and consultants to help the workforce to just think and grow professionally or personally. And we host webinars, we host podcasts, and you are offering tools now to try to get the people involved with what your hotel wants them to learn. So if you want to speak about that, if you want to learn a little bit more of what we're doing into Schulering here, just please send us an email or contact with us on LinkedIn. And we hope that we can start that conversation, join you into our hub, and continue evolving our people, that what actually matters for our industry. So thank you very much, Carlos, for organizing. Thank you, Nah-Dja, for sharing. Thank you, Szilvia. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
I just did a quick thank you to Szilvia as well. She had to walk the dog in the end, so she thought it was over. I wanted to thank you as well, Nah-Dja. Thank you, Szilvia. I think there came some great content out of it, which you can use and reuse in the future. But overall, this should trigger really a conversation about learning. Yeah, and there is a lot of opportunity. How is that going to be done? Structurizing it, using technology, understanding a different generation, your own generation, but a different one as well. And I think there is a lot to do. So I'm looking forward. Thank you a lot, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you too. Have a nice evening.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.